In other news, NCBA is encouraged by the Animal Disease Traceability for Cattle Health Rule. Under the proposed rule, most cattle and bison 18 months of age and older moving across state lines would have to be officially identified and accompanied by proper veterinarian documentation. The proposed rule encourages the use of low-cost tracking technology. It also specifies approved forms of official identification, such as metal ear tags for cattle. We have more on that animal traceability ruling in this week's Market Watch.
Market Watch.
Joining us in the studio is Leann Saunders, president of IMI Global. Thanks for being here, Leann.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Well, first of all, can you just give us a little bit of an overview of what you read in that new ruling?
Well, first of all, the ruling is 114 pages long, so you and I could converse all day on it and probably not get to the nitty-gritty details. But at a very high level, the proposed rule is the USDA saying, okay, now we're going to put in place a system for animal disease traceback and traceability in this country. So it's a very positive move in the right direction for us to be looking at as a country. At a very basic level, there are two requirements. Cattle moving interstate, so from state to state, have to move with a state-approved method of identification and also with an interstate certificate of veterinary inspection. So those are the basic rules. Now, the classes of cattle that are covered under this rule are cattle that are intact cattle, so 18 months of age and older, so that covers seed stock cattle in the United States, all recreational cattle, so show cattle and rodeo stock cattle, for example, and then 100% of dairy cattle, which is a big deal here in this first phase. Now, the first phase, the definition of that is going to last for a year or until we see 70% compliance. And then what's going to happen is the USDA is going to evaluate everything and look at, following that, proposing a new rule that then covers 100% of cattle movement in the United States.
Well, you clearly study this more than most. What's your sense? I mean, is this a positive move for the U.S. cattle industry?
Absolutely. I think it's a positive move for a number of reasons. First and foremost, when we look at where we're at internationally and compared to our competitors around the world that are supplying the world markets with beef today, we're behind the times. And, you know, it's been an advantage to me being part of the U.S. Meat Export Federation's executive committee and seeing that we keep falling behind. So I definitely think this is a positive move in the right direction for the U.S. just based on the economic advantage that we'll have. Regaining access to certain markets, maintaining access to critical markets that we already have intact.
Very good. And you have a very successful company, obviously specializing in process verification and animal ID and really helping people both create and capture additional value for their cattle. What problems do you see occurring from this new proposed ruling?
You know, I think there are always problems with any system. There's not a perfect system, so I kind of see this as a starting point for us. We have the advantage in the company that we work for that we're working with people that want to do the things that are required for specific export markets. So when you look at animal identification and you look at this rule, I know that in trying to look at what the requirements were or what people wanted to see across the country, they tried to pull that into the rule. But the devil lies in the details. When you're talking about animal identification and the traceability, by being too flexible, my concern is a little bit that we've broadened it too much and that we'll be caught up in reams of documentation and duplicate numbers and systems, as opposed to looking at some of the experience other countries have had and just saying, all right, let's use an EID and move forward. But I understand the reason for going down this road, and I do think it's a start for us.
Well, good. Well, at least it's a step in the right direction, hopefully. Thanks for coming to the show again.
Thanks for having me today, Kevin.
Yes. Learn more about IMI Global and the proposed disease traceability rule at cattleman2cattleman.org.